Hello, I'm Daniele Gottardo, and in this DVD I'd like to introduce you to my guitar approach. An important aspect in order to develop our way of playing and our musicality is the in-depth knowledge of the keyboard. You know that the guitar is a difficult instrument to visualize. This problem creates confusion and makes us spend a lot of time studying guitar. This brings me to develop a good organization of musical material in a simple and logical method, which is aimed at direct application. So let's start and see what it's all about. The easiest way to start creating a map of the keyboard of the guitar is to visualize the basic chord shapes in the first position. The C shape, the A shape, the G shape, the E shape, and the D shape. These chords are arranged vertically, but we can arrange them horizontally in order to apply them to every note. This way we will obtain many shapes for the same chord type. Let's make an example taking the D major chord and transposing its shape onto the E flat root. With the right corrections we will have an E flat major chord in the D shape. Before transposing the chords containing a certain number of notes, it's more important to start from what I call the empty shape, or the chord frame. Let's take the C shape, for instance. The empty shape contains only the one, the root of the chord, arranged on one octave or more. We have to think about this frame as the container of our musical ideas. Inside it we can start building scales, arpeggios, intervals, bichords, everything we need in order to play. Therefore, this will be a very important benchmark for us. Before transposing the empty shapes, let's analyze them in the first position. The C shape, the empty shape of A, the empty shape of G, the empty shape of E, and the empty shape of D. Those shapes that allow an open string will be deformed for the horizontal transposition. Let's have a look at this then. The D shape, when transposed a half step higher, will start with the forefinger. The same thing happens with the A shape. Transposition, G shape, here's its transposition, and ultimately the E shape. In order to memorize the shapes on your guitar faster, I suggest you use compulsory fingerings at first. I say this because our instrument offers a lot of combinations and several notes can be hit in different places. For instance, the note E on the first open string, on the second, third, fourth, and fifth string. So giving one fingering to one shape is a very important thing, without changing it by chance every time, and this happens really often. Let me show you the 5 compulsory fingerings now. The C shape, 3-1. The A shape, 1-3. The G shape, 4-1-4. The E shape, 1-3-1. The D shape, 1-4. I suggest that you replay the common note of each couple of shapes. The C on the 3rd fret is replayed by the forefinger in the A shape. Let me show you the 5 empty shapes form an empty shape in relation to the common note. When you are on the D shape, start on the C shape again, but an octave higher. Then you have the A shape and the G shape. Be careful to fill the whole range of your instrument. I will play the descending example, keeping the same fingering now. Now I'm playing the ascending and descending example. I will make sure I always replay the common note to have a connected change. 3, 3, 4, 4, 3, 3. Let's transpose the 5 shapes to all the 5 pitches at our disposal, always starting from the first position, to make sure you don't have uncovered zones on the keyboard. Here's an example with the note F. The starting shape will be the E shape, then the D shape, the C shape, the A shape, the G shape, and the same thing 1 octave above. Another example for the note B flat. Make sure you always find the starting shape. In this case, the starting shape is the A shape. I warmly recommend that you do this exercise for every pitch because this is foundational. Let me show you the minor chords now. The C shape. For the minor chord we need only 4 notes at the moment. Let's see the transposition 1 octave above. The A shape, very common. The G shape uses 4 notes like in the similar shape of C. The E shape and the D shape. It's very important that you visualize correctly the major and minor chords in the 5 cage shapes to avoid problems later. That's why I warmly recommend you to do this very carefully. Underlining the similarities between the shapes is very important. Let's start from the classic shape of E, using only a fragment on the 4th string set. You'll notice the similarity with the A shape at once. This fragment is taken from the 3rd set. This means that everything that is inside the fragment of E can be transferred to the fragment of A. I can start putting a 5th chord. 1, 3, 4. I transpose to the shape of A, 1, 3, 4. I can go on with the triad, for instance. Minor triad. There it is in the shape of A. I can put intervals, arpeggio, bichords, scales, the 7-note scale. There it is, transferred, with the same fingering. Another similar fragment is in the shape of D. Notice that it's slightly different from the one we just saw. There is indeed a different interval on the 2nd and on the 3rd string, instead of the typical 4th interval that we usually find in the couple of strings. We obtain a 3rd interval that makes the shape bigger. Let's put a 5th chord, 1, 3, 4, the minor triad, the melodic minor scale. We also find another fragment, even if covered, in the G shape, starting from the G string. Notice how the pattern is the same as in the shape of D, but transposed a string set below. Like we did before, we put the fifth chord, the minor triad, the melodic minor scale in this example, the last little fragment on the second string comes from the C shape. It's very little, but can help us to better map the neck. You see the triad and a fragment of the scale. Moving forward step by step, let's go from the chord to the arpeggio now. Let's take the A minor chord, its D shape, and play its notes one at a time. Fill, where possible, the compound intervals with a note from the chord. In this case, the interval A-E, a fifth, can be divided into two third intervals, adding the C, the third of the triad. In the E shape too, we'll just need to add the C to go from the chord to the arpeggio, remaining in position. Always using similar shapes while studying, we have the A shape, the C, then the next two similar shapes, the C shape and the G shape. The C shape and the G shape. Now I'm going to apply the 5 different shapes on the C root. We have 2 shapes on the 5th string, the C shape and the A shape, starting with the forefinger. We also have 2 shapes on the E string, the 6th one. Here we can find the G shape and the E shape. The remaining D shape is on the 4th string. Let's start filling the empty shapes with some chordal blocks, starting from the most common chords, the major chord and the minor chord. Here's the C chord on the C shape, on the A shape, on the G shape, on the E shape, and on the D shape. Some of these shapes won't probably be that comfortable, and they will not sound too good maybe, like the G shape or the C shape when transposed an octave above. But they will be very helpful for other purposes that I will soon show you. Another very important visualization of the chord is in the triads. Let's draw the chord essence from the starting block, the 3 notes composing the triad. It's very important to go away from the block fingering. Let's organize then the notes in 3 string sets. First set, second set, third set, and fourth set of 3 steps. Let's see what happens with the D shape in the first set. Here's the second set. Notice that in this string set, the D shape and the C shape tend to overlap. They're often confused, and this couple can be unified in one shape. Here we have the third set into the C shape and into the fourth set. Let's play the sets ascending and descending harmonically. The A shape too can be connected to the next one, the G shape. Let's start from the first set, second, third, fourth, playing up and down in the different shapes. A, G. Now let's transpose the triads horizontally without the links that we saw at first vertically, therefore staying in the same shape. This is very much used, so it's very important to have clear benchmarks here. In the first set, the shapes of E, D, A, and E again. In the second set, A, E, C, A, E. In the third set, G, E, C, G, E. Ultimately, in the fourth set, G, E, C, and G again. Let me show you an ascending and descending example with the triads on the 4 3-string sets. Now we'll link the triads moving diagonally, mixing the horizontal and vertical movements. Avoid to move mechanically, and let's start improvising the changes freely, like this. Now I want to show you the changed fingering that I use to play arpeggios and scales. I used to remove the capo playing melodic shapes. It's very advantageous. First of all, it helps in the connection between the different forms thanks to a wide use of the forefinger. Second, the combinations to remember are less. Furthermore, you have a better definition and division among the notes. It gives also better variety in the profile of our melodic ideas. Let's see these things one at a time. Before moving forward, I want you to notice that on the guitar there could be different fingerings for the same group of notes, depending on your goal. While to learn a certain group on notes by heart, I suggest you use only one fingering. In everyday practice, things can change. You have to find a comfortable fingering that sounds good. Let's make an example in the classic shape of D, using for the chord the fingering 2, 4, 3 for the triad. When playing only the triad, we can use 1, 3, 2. If we have to play these 3 notes melodically, we have to use the 1, 2, 1 fingering, especially to maintain the position. To move in the E shape, we can use the fingering of the chord 1, 3, 2 to better connect with the forefinger in the E shape. The same thing, we want to insert open intervals in the triad. A 6th skip, for instance. 1, 2, 3. This would be very comfortable using only the forefinger. Up to this point, we played the triads in a harmonic way. Let's see what happens playing the single notes. Starting from the classic E shape on the 1st string set. Now let's try to move diagonally. E, D, C, E, A, G. Let's improvise the changes, being careful to avoid pre-built patterns. Now I'll show you the same example, inserting skips to variegate the melody. I'll play this on the second string set. First string, second string, third string, now I'll play the 5 triads in the 5 shapes, using the fragment from the E shape. In the shape of E, on the shape of D, in the shape of C, in the shape of A, in the shape of G. I connect them. You can do the same thing with every arpeggio or scale. An example with the melodic minor A scale. E, D, A, G, and the little fragment of C. Connect them like this, playing the root twice. Connect them like this, A and G. Other similar shapes are those coming from the G shape. Let's take a fragment built in the 4th set, the shape of G, empty shape. Let's transpose it to the similar shape of C after the root. Fill that minor triad, 4, 2, 1. Again in the C shape, 4, 2, 1. Another similar fragment is in the 2nd string set, inside the E shape. Here's the triad, 4, 2, 1. The same thing in the A shape, 2. In the 1st set, in this case 3, 2, 1. And a very little fragment that can be, again, very helpful, in the D shape. 3, 1. Connect the triads. Now I say the name of the fragment. G, 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 G. And again, G, 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 G. Mixing 2 types of fragments, one coming from G and another from E. We have the complete positions for the triads. Let's have a look starting from the G shape. We have a G fragment and an E fragment. In the E shape, we have an E fragment and a G fragment. In the D shape, we have an E fragment and a very little fragment of G. In the C shape, we have a fragment of G plus one of E. In the A shape, we have a fragment of E and one of G. G, E, G, 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 E. A good way to gain freedom moving on the neck is to analyse the links of the triad on one string, starting from the high E string. Let's now link the second string. And then the third string. Now I'll show you the same example. I'll now improvise an example only using the forefinger. Do this only once you've learned the basic fingerings. After you find a comfortable position for your left hand, it's important that you keep your thumb steady in one point. Let it sway to find the right position of the fingers within their fret. Be very careful and keep it steady to move in a fluid way. Let's now apply the sweep technique and the appoggiato to the right hand. After playing the first note, the pick leans against the string below even before playing the note. This way the tone will be more fluid and even. Be careful not to do this movement with this little jump. It will be unuseful if we want to achieve a certain speed and fluidity. If you don't find it spontaneous to do this movement, try with this easy expedient. Slow down little by little. You'll obtain the right appoggiato movement. Now I'll play you the pattern slowly. Notice how in the descending phase you don't need to use the appoggiato, since there is not a continuous picking in this direction. Pay attention to use it only while ascending. Be sure also to use the same picking and the same fingering in the repetition of the pattern. Again. I'm going to play it fast. Let's see what happens from behind, from the thumb. Let it sway, let it sway. We can break further the pattern, obtaining a mini shape on a group of two close strings. This is a great exercise for both hands. Be very careful to the position of the forefinger. Touch with the fingertip the upper string. This will help you avoid the background noise. Let's see the example slowly. Only use the appoggiato. Down, down, up, pull off, down, down, up, pull off. I'll play it faster. Bending the arpeggios and the harmonic triads fingerings, we obtain a wide knowledge of the triad. Once we learn the links and the positions, we can destroy the positions we've learned. We'll just keep the notes and all the links will be allowed. Let's start moving freely, avoiding pre-built patterns or licks. Improvise freely. Let's take the A minor triad in the E shape on the first string set. Notice that the harmonic fingering is not that comfortable if we have to play the notes one at a time. So I suggest you use the fingering 1-2-1 that we already saw in the E shape. Here you can see the application of the E shape 1-2-1. The only difficulty is to keep the first and the second finger on the same fret. I then suggest you gently rotate your hand like this, so that you don't encumber the two fingers, and each finger has its space. Adding the note C on the third string, we can obtain a classic pattern to better practice with this exercise. You can transpose this example horizontally on the first string set using the triads inversions. D shape, A shape, we can easily transpose the fingerings we already studied, considering the similarities within the shapes like we did before. I take the A minor triad in the D shape on the first string set, and I transpose it an octave below the E shape in the third string set. The harmonic fingering is 2-3-1. 2-3-1. The corresponding melodic fingering will be 1-2-1. 1-2-1. We can apply this pattern one octave below. Pay attention to the position of the forefinger in the E shape. Avoid sudden changes from the 5th to the 7th fret. This is a great exercise. We can unify the E shape with the D shape, sliding with the forefinger. Using the harmonic fingerings, this would be a little more complex. Let's take an example. I'll play it faster now. Try to find all the possible fingerings in the 5 shapes. In the C shape, for instance, we find the 2-3-1 pattern. We can find it also in the A shape. The melodic fingering is, again, 1-2-1 and 1-2-1. Connect them with your forefinger. Let me show you an example where I use the 3 shapes. Now faster. Also try the combination of the patterns. The 3-string pattern and the 2-string pattern. Do not use new fingerings or pickings down. Down, 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 up, pull off. Down, down, up, pull off. And the last one, up. Let's see it slowly. Now faster. Starting from the little harmonic shapes, we can obtain bigger shapes for our arpeggios. I can take the A shape on the first string set and the G shape on the 4th set. I try to unify them this way using the chord fingering. This way you can avoid the capo on the 4th and 3rd string. You only need a simple change in the position to insert the fingers correctly. Pay a lot of attention to the thumb. The movement has to be dry. Let me play a little pattern. During this fast arpeggio, look how it sways. Look behind. Try to apply the triads of the minor triads that we just saw to the major triads, starting from the classic C shape on the 1st string set. We obtain 1, 2, 1. Let's apply the pattern. The same thing for the A shape. Again on the 1st string set. 1, 2, 1. Pay attention to the movement of the forefinger while changing string. Pattern. Same thing for the E shape, 1, 2, 1. And for the A shape on the 4th set. Again, we can use the 1, 2, 1 fingering in the G shape. Not that used melodically because it is not comfortable with the traditional chord fingering on the 2nd string set. So we take the A minor triad fingering on the 1st set and we transpose it 1 string set above. So we have 1, 2, 1, 4. Look at the pattern we obtain. Moving chromatically along the neck, we can practice the finger exchange. Let's complete the shape, inserting the 4th set, 4, 3, 1. We have the same fingering for the G and the C shape. 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, 4. I break the arpeggio again. Pay a lot of attention to the picking. Down, up. Now faster. Now let's analyse the major harmonic triads, starting from the E shape, dividing into 4 sets, entering the D shape, and the C shape, in the A shape, entering the G shape. Do the same exercises you did for the minor triads for the major triads. So horizontal, vertical, and oblique connections with single notes connecting on each string. High E, second string. This for each one of the 4 sets. Oblique. Always improvising and without learning them by heart. In that case, these exercises would be useless. Back to the E shape. We can use the fingering 1, 4 on the 6th string, borrowing it from the A minor melodic arpeggio. This we have. Do not cross the 1st and the 4th finger. Put the 4th on the next note at once. In this case, the root is like this. The same thing happens for the D shape. 1, 4. We can extend the C shape, borrowing notes from the E shape. Pay attention to the picking. Up, pull off, up, 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 pull off, up, down, again. I want to show you a couple of exercises about the modified fingerings in G minor. I play the triad on a group of 2 close strings, using the inversions of the triad. First, second, basic. Notice that the fingering always stays the same. 2, 1, 4. 2, 1, 4. 2, 1, 4 on the first inversion. Again, 2, 1, 4. 2, 1, 4. 2, 1, 4. Pay attention to giving the right space to the note that is played twice. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's play the example slowly. I'll play them fast with the boost. Let me play you another fragment. using the G major triad, mixing the A and the G shape. Using the sixth skips, minor sixth, fifth, major sixth. With the modified fingerings, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, and 4 to come back to the A shape. Slowly. Now faster. Now try to add the second on the minor triad. Start visualizing the fragments from the minor triads developing after the root, coming from the E shape. Here's the fragment in the D shape again. Again C. In the shape of A. And also in the shape of G. Now I add the second, D, C, A, G. Now let's have a look at those which develop before the root. The fragments coming from the G shape. G, C, E again, in the second set, and A in the first set. I add the second, C, E, and A. I can connect similar shapes. G, again G, G, E, E, E. The two types of fragments mixed together give us the classic caged shapes. Let's see them starting from the shape of G. First fragment, shape of G, and second fragment coming from the E shape. Now starting from the E shape, and then from a fragment of the G shape, the shape of D that uses the fragment of E. The shape of C starts in G, the second part is taken from the shape of E. G, shape of A, E, and G. Connect them the way you like it. G, E, G, 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 E, G. Let's take the two-string set above and play the E minor triad using the 2, 1, 4 fingering. Using legato to reinforce our left hand. When we find a good posture, we can start playing in all the positions. Using all the common notes on the fifth string, we can obtain different triads changing the bass note. E minor, C major, and diminished C sharp. Let's try a little pattern alternating the fingers like this. Let's also try it on other sets of strings. Let me play an example connecting all the shapes. A, C, D, E, G, A. Pay attention to the change from one shape to the other. Little finger, slide, slide, little finger, second finger. Now faster. You can see how they become simpler this way, going from the 5 shapes to 2 basic shapes. Now I want to play an example where I apply the major triads and the minor triads with the second in a power context. Let me show you another important approach to the triads. I will only play the minor triad on a simple major harmonic progression. This is a great exercise and I warmly recommend you to work on it. Let's see the melodic quadriads now. In other words, 4 voice arpeggios. It's very important to know the triads and their disposition. 3 notes out of 4 belong to that chord indeed. I'll take the D minor triad in the C shape. I'll add the minor 7th, C. Now, another goal of the empty shapes is that they help us find the position of the notes we add to the triad. I can do this in the A shape with the C note, adding the minor 7th below the root. I have this. This way we have a superimposition of 2 different shapes. The first, which is the main one, of the root chord. In this case, the C shape. And the second one, the shape of the added note, the A shape. Let me show you the complete example. This way to memorize a chord is easier, cutting it into 2 little pieces. A simple triad and an empty shape. Pay attention to the finger 1 use for the C, the forefinger, and I avoid the classic combination 2-4. It is both too academic and uncomfortable. Suppose you want to move towards the next shape with the second finger towards the A shape. I will go into a quite uncomfortable position, with the forefinger, however, over and above having more fluidity. I will come come in with the right fingering. Let's see an example of position changing with the D minor 7 arpeggio. Starting from the minor 7th with the forefinger. Connect with the little finger, picking down and down again. Picking up on the C and pull off. Again, up and up. Do it again. Down, hammer, down, down, up, pull off, up, up. I'll play it slowly. Now faster. Let's see the other similar shapes at once. Transpose the C shape and the G shape with the same fingering. I add the C with the forefinger. Let me show you the similar fragments using the same arpeggio again, in the shape of E in the second set. 4, 1, 2, 4. In the shape of A on the first set. Third finger instead of the fourth. 3, 2, 1, 4. Let me play you the 7th arpeggios in the fragments coming from the E shape. Triad and 7th. In the shape of A. In the shape of D. I'll play the minor 7th arpeggio in the 5 positions, cutting the triad plus the added note. Starting from the C shape, D minor triad, plus the 7th in the A shape. The sum gives us the 7th arpeggio. Next shape, shape of A for the root chord triad. We find the 7th in the shape of G. Here's the minor 7th arpeggio. Now the G shape. Triad. Added note in the shape of E. E shape, triad, the 7th in the D shape. Closing the D shape, triad, an added note in the C shape. Connect them through a slide with the forefinger. A, C, D, E, G, A, C, G, E, D, C, A. I try and connect the similar fragments now, using the C shape and the A shape for instance. I connect using a slide with the forefinger. The same thing for the fragment in the G shape and the fragment in the E shape. example, E shape plus D shape. Again C with A. E, A, G. In this video, we don't obviously have the time to analyse all the seventh arpeggio's forms, but I wanted to talk about an important harmony, the dominant seventh chord. A minor seventh on a major triad. Taking, for example, A major, we have G, first find all the chord shapes in the first position. D shape, C shape, A shape, G shape, and then their inversions. The same thing with the arpeggios. Connect D, E, D, C, improvising A, G, A, C, D, E, G. I'd like to show you the application of the dominant seventh chords on a harmonic blues progression. I will only use the notes of the chords, avoiding the patterns and all mechanical movements. Let me show you a great exercise for your right hand now. Yeah, I think it's better if I don't do this now. Talking about scales, it's important to have a fingering that always starts from the root of the chord. This is to have a clear visual benchmark on the scale and the chord. One of the most common shapes, E, has these features. Notice the scale, minor pentatonic, how it's well inserted in the shape of the chord. All the most common shapes have this feature, the shape of A2. It is important to start from the root and avoid playing on the sixth string at the moment. Let's analyse the D shape. The chord starts on the fourth string, and also the scale will start in this string. Avoid playing notes on the sixth or fifth string now. A lot of guitarists do it, like this. If you're not friendly with the function of the notes and the direction of the notes, you risk to make confusion between the real shape of D and the shape of the E for the C chord. Other two shapes working very well for the pentatonic are the G shape and the C shape. The shapes developing going backwards. The G shape starts on the 6th string and doesn't create any problems, while the C shape starts on the 5th G, Let's analyse the finger combinations in the minor pentatonic. Starting from the G shape, I suggest you do not use this combination 2-4. It is academic and cold. Imagine you have to improvise on a blues with these fingers. I suggest you use this combination 1-4 or 1-3. Another example with the 1-4. Very comfortable for the fast licks because the little finger always stays in the 5th fret. I also suggest you the 1-3 for the more aggressive licks, rock blues for instance. Let's see the E shape. 1-4. 1-3. The D shape, shape 1-4, and then 1-3. Or 1-4-1, 4, 1-3. The C shape, 1-3. Or 1-4. The first string always with the 3rd finger. The A shape, 1-4, 1-3. You can connect the pentatonic scales doing a slide with your forefinger. I start in the D shape. I connect on the 3rd string, entering the E shape. I'm using a crunch tone. I connect on the 5th string, entering the G shape. I want to show you a great exercise for both hands on the E shape. I take 3 notes from the dominant 7th arpeggio, G, E and C sharp, and I play this little pattern. I insert my Gotti Boy pedal by 11 Electrics. Paying attention to always take the forefinger away when you change string. Add 1 note at a time. The root, A. The pick goes down, 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 up. Now add the 7th, G. The A is hit by an up picking. Up, up, down. Up, up, down. Hammer on. Down, down. Add the fifth on the fifth string. Up, up, pull off, up, down, hammer, down, down, up, down, up, down. Add the major third. Up, up, pull off, up, down. Down, up, down, down, up, down, down. In the end, I add the last note, the root on the sixth string. Up, down. Let's go back to the three-note pattern and add one note at a time now. Pay attention to the picking. Bit faster. Now I'll play an example on the fourth three-string set, starting from the G shape and connecting the G shape with the E shape on the fifth string. In this example, I use the alternated picking with an internal passage on the first chord passage. Then a movement of descending sweep between the fourth and the fifth. And again a descending sweep between the fifth and the sixth. Using the forefinger in all the pentatonic scale fingerings, you can connect all the shapes starting from any point. Try this simple exercise. Connect the close shapes, saying the name of the shape that you're in. An example: E, D, C. Always connect close shapes, only with your forefinger. D, C, A, G, E. Another example of connection, starting from the G shape. I connect on the second string through a slide of my forefinger, entering the A shape. Then I connect on the fourth string, entering the C shape. I finally complete the C shape, ascending. Another way to connect the scales is to use groups on notes, avoiding the slide when you change shape, but using a quick change of position. Here's an example. D shape, E. We can avoid using the picking up, using the forefinger to hit the string in order to have a more interesting colour of the tone. play it again. Let me play another idea with this set of the central strings. Starting from the G shape, then A, C, D, E, and G. As you did for the sliding, do the same thing with the position shifting, connecting the scales in a joined way. G, I skip the E shape and go straight to the D shape. A, D, G, C, G, D. After doing it mechanically, try to do it more musically. Let me show you a little example. Starting from the E shape, I go to the C shape, G, C, again, E, C, G, A, slide, grouping, slide, position shifting. Up to this point, we only took into consideration the connections between shapes which aren't close. I can take the E shape, connect it onto the C shape, avoiding the shape that lies between the two, D. I connect on the high E string, using my forefinger to enter the C shape. Pay attention to this point. 3, 1. Help yourself with your thumb to make a quick movement. I go on with the A minor pentatonic in the C shape. And I come back to the E shape using the third finger. Another time. Try to make it fluid when playing it fast. I will play a couple of examples on a harmonic blues major progression and on a minor one using the notes of a minor pentatonic scale. Notice how the scale sounds in both harmonies. Now try to improvise more melodically, always saying the shape names. C, D, E, G, E, A, C, D, E, G, E, D, C, A. We can use this little motif on other shapes. An example on the D shape. Let's keep the same melodic profile. Fourth, third, second intervals. And transpose it into the other sets of strings of the pentatonic scale. C shape, A shape, G shape. Now faster. Now I'll mix the D shape and the E shape patterns. D, E, D, E, and again, E. Let me play it again. Now faster. We saw the pentatonic scale in the simplest of its applications. Anyway, notice that a 5-note group can be interpreted in many different ways harmonically, its structure being ambiguous from a tonal point of view. We can therefore use the scale to underline the tensions of the chord. For example, I can use a minor pentatonic scale built on the 5th degree, on the A minor 7 chord, E minor pentatonic in this case, giving emphasis on the extensions of the minor 7th, major 9th and 11th. To give emphasis to a 13th chord, I can use a pentatonic scale built one step above the chord. In this case, B minor pentatonic. The important thing is to characterize the harmonic result, superimposing the pentatonic on the chord, avoiding to tonalize the pentatonic. A wrong example could be the following one. As you can hear, I'm trying to put the substitution always on the chord I'm playing. E minor pentatonic, B minor, A minor. A more complex application is with the altered dominant 7th chords. On these harmonies we can use the minor pentatonic a third above. On this A7 augmented 5, we can use the C minor pentatonic. This brings the tensions of the augmented 9th, flat 5, sharp 5, minor 7th and minor 9th. Because of the tension introduced by the scale, I suggest you use this substitution when the chord has the role of a functional dominant. In other words, when the chords act as a typical dominant. In this case, the A7 augmented 5 is to be considered as the dominant, main or secondary, that goes to the D chord. An example with the scale of A. Speaking about visualization, it is important to blend the fingering and the shape of the pentatonic, on the substitution in this case, on the position of the chord on which we're playing. If we're playing in the 5th position on a A minor 7 chord, the pentatonic we use to do the substitution will be in the same position, therefore in the shape of C. Pay attention to these two shapes in this case. Another little example in the shape of D. The pentatonic we'll use will be in the shape of A. Using the alternative fingerings that we previously saw, we can use more the intervals of the pentatonic scale, enriching the melodic profile of the phrase. Here's an example in the E shape. Let me play this 4th with the 2-1 fingering. Then 4-1 for the major 2nd. 2-1, 4-1. The picking goes up, 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 down. Appoggiato, appoggiato, up, down. I transfer the pattern on the other 3 string sets. The picking and the fingering stay the same. Up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down. Introducing the 9th allows us to create new triads inside the scale. For example, an E minor that brings us the 5th, the minor 7th and the major 9th. Now I played it in the C shape, referring to the E shape for one chord, now in the shape of A, referring to the D shape for the one chord. Scale, triad, resolution of the one chord. Another triad is the G major triad on the 7th lower degree. You make the one chord bigger with the 7th, major 9th and 11th. Now I go on the A chord in the shape of D. The G major triad is in the C shape. It goes on the D shape for the one chord, staying in the same position of the keyboard. We can mix the root triad. A minor, another example, G, A and E. I can add C major from the pentatonic. C major and E minor, all in the fifth position. E, E again, C major, E, and A minor. It's clear then that in order to deeply understand the scale, you first have to know the notes of the triads. I suggest you do the preceding chapters again. It's clear then that in order to deeply understand the scale, you first have to know the notes of the triads. I suggest you do the preceding chapters again. Now I'm going to play an example where I use the 6 notes of the hexatonic scale in a bossa nova context. The connecting principles of the scales work also for the arpeggios. In this case, I use the 5 shapes with the A Dorian scale, starting from the A scale and connecting to the other shapes through a slide of the forefinger. C shape, D shape, E shape, but in this case with the forefinger. 1, 4, 4, 2, 1. Slide entering the G shape, concluding in the A shape in the first position. I'll play it slowly. Then faster. Let me show you some connections using the position shifting for the chords. Starting from the A shape and going towards the E shape. I use some extended chords as a frame for my melodic phrasing. This is much used in jazz. E, A. I try these connections on each string, keeping the melodic line. A. I can move jumping from the C shape to the D shape. I always start from an extended chord. G shape, D, A, G. Thanks to the presence of the major sixths in the scale, we obtain 3 new triads. A major triad on the 4th degree, D major, a minor triad on the 2nd degree, B minor, and a diminished triad on the 6th degree, diminished F sharp. First visualize them. B minor, D major, F sharp diminished, but try to use them in a good way inside the phrase. B minor. Let's now hear them mixed with the other triads. E minor, A minor, B minor, C major, G major, E minor, and again B minor, A minor, G major, C major, E minor, B. G, E. The guitar neck should look clearer at this point. I hope things have been organised in a clear way now. Let's underline what is important to think about at this point of our study. The empty shape, which is the foundation of the organisation of the musical material on guitar. The chord, the triad, the melodic arpeggio, the seventh arpeggio, the pentatonic scale, the hexaphonic scale, the diatonic scale, the diatonic triads. Repeat this exercise in one form on all the 5 forms. This is obviously only a little part of what you can learn and study on this instrument. What is important is to do it simply and logically. I hope I can be a help for you about this. See you next time. Now I'll play an example using the Dorian mode on the 1st and on the 4th degree. I will also use some altered scales in the 2nd, on the 5th and on the 4th degree. I use a Fender Stratocaster Deluxe. It was my father's guitar. I found it at home and I started to play. By chance, I was just curious. I modified the neck and I made it scalloped. I used high frets, jumbo, very low action and strings starting with 0.11 for the high E string. It's quite hard to play with this set, but the sounds get better. My pickups are a Hot Race by Seymour Duncan, a high sensor in the middle which was originally already on the guitar, and a Mike Landau Sewer model for the neck. In this DVD I used 11 Electrics pedals, mainly the boost number 2 and the distortion. With this couple of pedals we made most of the sounds. I needed a neutral sound, not very distorted, for the examples. The distortion is very light and doesn't make the sound dirty. I used my Gotti Boy pedal for the more distorted parts. The effects were a delay in send return. The reverb was added during the mix. All the cables were reference RIC S01 Studio. The head is a Bogner Uberschall. The clean channel has the gain at 10, bass frequency at 3.50. Middle and high frequency usually 4.50. The distortion channel has the gain at 7.50. I usually don't like middles that much, never beyond 5, so it's almost the same equalization of the clean channel. I try to play at my best to obtain the tone I have in mind. Then I have a Bogner 4. I use a simple hair slide to stop the undesired vibrations, since my right hand is engaged in the 8-finger tapping technique. The hair slide can also be used in the traditional technique when the left hand has to play tapping parts. Hello everyone, this is Alex Stornello, President of MMI. I'm here to introduce you to my academy and talk about my experience with Daniele Gottardo. Modern Music Institute was born in order to consolidate my experience of 20 years of didactics. It ended up being a successful idea. In a little time we already have many schools throughout the country. It would be difficult to explain the methodology we use for each instrument, but I can say that MMI philosophy is to give the student not only the theory, but all the fundamental means to make a profession out of this passion. Regarding guitar, along these years I've split the topics into 4 parts: visualization, technique, improvisation, theory sessions and applied harmony. Furthermore, there are all the complementary courses that address to the session in the studio. Regarding my students, I had a lot of satisfaction because a lot of them work in the music business, not just for didactics. Daniele especially came to me when he was very young, but he already had a good knowledge. He just needed someone to help him grow. He had speed learning. Sometimes he even contradicted my lessons just to understand better the topics, and I really appreciated this as a teacher. He had the will to better understand the instrument. And you can see it right now. He changed what he learned into something highly professional and personal. I wish I'll have many other students like Daniele giving me great satisfaction and using my teaching methods to grow up and develop their personality. The main need in this DVD was to find a clean and clear sound in all its colours. 90% of the filming was done with a clean tone, because what is important in an instructional DVD is that it has to be very easily understandable. Daniele's equipment was simplified. We decided to use only 1 speaker instead of the 2 we usually use in the studio. I had the chance to test, thanks to the collaboration with Prase, the new microphone at 4081. It's a Nastro mic, but conceived in a modern way. I really like to use this kind of mic, not only for guitars, but also with Hammond, Rhodes, etc. Obviously, my main curiosity was to test this mic and hear how it sounded. I don't like to buy a mic only because of what those who made it promise. I'd like to test it and see where I can use it at its best. I really liked it, even in relation to the other mics of that type that I have here in my studio, because it's got its own character, very controlled low frequency and a crystal sound for the guitar. For the cabinet recordings, I usually use one or two mics, unifying the Nastro mic and the dynamic microphone. There is not a fixed rule. I like to experiment, working on one speaker or on many speakers to exploit the difference of the phases. It depends on the cabinets we use, the artist, our goal, musical genre, producer. In this case we use Daniele's Bogner. And I recorded everything in a dead room because at 4081 mic with an 8 configuration, it's very susceptible to the environment. And this way we had the driest tone that we could have achieved. I used an American preamplifier, no equalizers nor compressors, straight into the Pod G converters and the Pro Tools systems to record. Yes, it is a particular situation. Daniele heard everything from his ear monitors because its speaker was in another room. In this case, we used a reamplification. It is an instructional DVD, so it would not make sense. It was used during the recordings of Daniele's album. We both didn't have that much time, so that way Daniele was freer to record at home. I gave him a good DI, a good converter, and so in his creative moments he could record himself at once. When he came to the studio, we went backwards. We took his pickup recordings and we put them on a DI and we reamplified the signal. You work in a very creative way there. You can test many ampli heads, different solutions. It's a very creative thing. I like to use it in the studio, even if I believe it works a lot with the rhythmic parts, but less with the solos. In that case, you need a direct interaction with the amplifier.
Possiamo... No, ho fatto un verso con la mano, non si può tenere. Buonanotte. Ora velocemente... No. No, ma sono duro quando registro. Aspetta che... Si sente che mandava giù la saliva? Ok. Ottenendo un maggiore... delle... estensioni... Aspetta un attimo. Applicazioni... casellate in maniera chiara. E spero che il nostro contributo a questo video sia stato sostanziale per... Mi viene da ridere, aspetta. Per ricordare meglio le cose che dobbiamo fare. Prima di andare a letto laviamo i dentini. Dove, qualora l'accordo... Si può dire dove qualora? Data la tensione... Mi viene da ridere. Applicazione più complessa. Agora fa zone in bocca. Quando si parla di sì, aspetta, mi viene da ridere. Quando si parla di sostituzione... No! Voglio farti vedere ora un esempio No. Mi sono mosso troppo per una zacca. Ora voglio farti vedere l'applicazione delle triadi. Ah no, ho saltato un pezzo. Vedi che in questa maniera le cose si complicano molto. Il power Ci sono tantissime dittature. L'importante è non far confusione e usare dittature di prima qualità. Dittature bolzoni, solo nel migliore. No. Un esempio di smanicamento con l'arpeggio di Re minore settima nella forma di Do. Prima ottava, E spesso questo ci porta a fare confusione. No. La mia idea è quella di eliminare il barla. Avevo la bocca secca che avevo la camomilla prima.
Infatti, no, hai bevuto la birra, mi sa.
La riduzione del numero di dittature.
Diteggiatura 85.
Sì. 86. Il barré. Delle combinazioni. Ora voglio farti vedere un ottimo esercizio per la mano destra. Ragazzi, non si fa questa. È brutta, la rifaccio. Facciamo un'altra. Vuoi che le rifacciamo? Vai che è messo bene adesso. Vai, adesso. Facciamone un'altra.
I want to play an example where I use the minor pentatonic scales to create colour and diatonic extension and to create tension on altered dominant chords. Starting from the hexaphonic minor scale, add the last diatonic extension, the major 13th. We can find it starting from the root and following the diatonic thirds order. Root, third, fifth, seventh, ninth, 11th and 13th. I choose the major 13th because it is more stable than the minor one. The minor 13th creates a dissonance, contrasensible, and that risks to obscure the clear identity of the chord. Another way to find the 13th is to follow the harmonization 5th by 5th. E, 5th of the root, 5th of the 3rd, 5th of the 5th, 5th of the 7th, and 13th, 5th of the 9th. This scale is called Dorian. Let's see it in the 5 positions starting from the G shape. Pay attention to the modified fingerings. 1, 4, 4, 1. E shape. 1, 4. 3. D shape. C shape. And A shape. Have a look on the similar fragments, starting from those whose development starts from the root, like the shape of G, the shape of C, but also the E shape in the second string and the A shape in the first set. The scales inside these shapes will have the same fingerings. 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. In the C shape, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. In the shape of E, and in the shape of A. In this case we start with the 3rd finger, while the other fingers stay the same. 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Let's see those who develop having their base in the shape of E. Go to the similar shape of A. Again D. And G again. Start with simple connections now, starting from the G shape, entering the E shape, through a slide, and in this case with the little finger, same thing with the shape of C, and the shape of A. Now, with other similar shapes, E, D. And again, A and G. Before analysing the 7-note scale, I want to show you a very important scale because it allows us to gradually move from the 5-note pentatonic to the 7-note diatonic scale. In the minor tonality, you have to add a major 2nd to the pentatonic. I was in the E shape for the basic chord A minor. For the added note, the ninth is taken from the G shape in this portion. The major 9, for instance, is an extension that doesn't create problems with the chord, like a minor 13th and the minor 9th. It creates a new colour, deeper, a new vibe to the basic chord, a triad or quadriad of a major 13th chord, or minor with a major 7th, etc. Visualize the fragments from the G and E shapes first for this scale. Here you have those from the G shape, in the E shape, I start from the third finger, finishing with the little shape coming from G, inside the shape of D. Now the fragments from E. The union of these fragments gives us the full shapes: G, E, D, C, and A.